Tonight on Joy News Prime, Central Region Police arrest fetish priest suspected to have instigated killing of 10-year-old boy for ritual purposes. We'll get the details and get to know a bit more about the suspects currently in custody for the crime. The regional minister has meanwhile assured justice will be served.
And to also assure them that they are going to get justice for what has happened. We cannot sit aloof for people to continue taking lives like that.
Despite warnings by the Food and Drugs Authority for the public to avoid consumption of the fish that washed ashore over the weekend, some residents in communities where the beaching happened say they have suffered no adverse effects after consuming the fishes. $771 people died from road crashes between January and March this year, surpassing the number of people who died from COVID-19 since the first case was reported in Ghana.
We need to focus and redirect our attention to road traffic accidents. The other diseases are important, but we don't have to neglect road traffic accident in favor of the ones I've mentioned, because it is killing people more than all the other diseases that we are talking about put together.
Also in the bulletin in Business, Securities and Exchange Commission draft new guideline to check misappropriation of investment by fund management firms.
We also worked on reviewing and enhancing licensing requirements. So that has also been issued. It was issued in the last quarter of last year, and that has new capital requirements. We also did amendments to the LI 1728.
Businesses in the Ashanti regional capital Kumasi, reeling from incessant power cuts, are demanding a power rationing timetable to enable them plan the operations.
The government should tell us if it's doomsday we are experiencing.
There should be a timetable set for us so that we all go by it.
My name is Israel, and Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Father for Studios at Kokomlimli here in Accra, your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. Police in the Central Region are said to have arrested the fetish priest said to have instigated the death of the 10-year-old boy at Kaswa. The teenage suspects arrested for the crime are said to have clubbed the boy to death for money rituals. Central Region correspondent Richard Kojo-Nyakun has that angle of the story and joins us with more. Richard, what more can you report?
Well, so the police are reporting that they went upon further investigation. So they went to Suhum in the eastern region and effected the arrest of this fetish priestesses. They believe, played a pivotal role in all of these that have caused the death of the 10-year-old. And so they have effected her arrest, and she is assisting the police with their investigations. Meanwhile, the police tell us that they have transferred the case to the CID headquarters in Accra. So they will be handling the case from now because that jurisdiction is very close to Accra. But because the distress call came from to Kaswa, that Kaswa Divisional Police Command, that is why the Kaswa Division started investigation. So now what they tell us is that the case has been transferred to the national headquarters.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Kojo-Nyakun, bringing us that update about a fetish priestess being arrested in connection with the murder of the 10-year-old boy at Kaswa. Now, let's go over to Maxwell Agbagba, who has just returned from the community where the whole incident happened, or the tragedy happened, and he's picked up some information about the boys involved, the suspects involved. Now, Maxwell, what can you tell us about the suspects involved in this case?
Well, Israel, the charge sheet actually revealed that the two suspects, the two accused persons, one is 16, the other is actually 18 years. The information we're picking up is in relation to the 18-year-old suspect. For him, we have much information about him. In fact, we are told that he actually enrolled in senior high school just some weeks ago, and that is the Great Lambton Mills Senior High School in Kaswa. I had interactions with the father of the suspect, who tells me that his son actually got admission to a school in the Volta region, but because he could not afford the cost of boarding fees for his son, so he had to go to the Great Lambton School, which is just some minutes drive from their residence, to plead with the headmaster, and the headmaster actually agreed that he could pay his fees in installments. So just some days to vacation, we are told that the 18-year-old suspect enrolled in that school and was in school for about a week before school went on vacation. Now, another thing we are learning about the 18-year-old suspect is that, if you ask residents, they tell you that he was once arrested, he was once involved in the case of defilement, and that particular allegation was confirmed to us by a source at the Kaswa police station. Now, when I had interactions with the father of the suspect, he actually told me that allegation is untrue. He says the only time that his son actually had a case involving the police was about 4 months ago, when a man he used to work for actually accused him of stealing $10,000, an allegation the father actually denied. In fact, he says that his son used to be a staunch Christian and a staunch member of the Hope Generation Church, but he only slipped into peer pressure to the extent that he advised him to stay away from bad company. But he says that anytime he says that, the son wouldn't listen. In fact, he says on the day that the incident actually happened, right, at 10:30, he saw his son in his room relaxing. 1 hour later, information came through that his son had been arrested by the police for killing someone. So
in effect, Maxwell, at the time the father saw him relaxing in his room, he had supposedly committed the crime already.
No, he had not committed the crime. So 1 hour later, that was when information started filtering through that he had actually committed the crime. So the father actually said it came to him as a surprise, because he really did not expect that to happen, because he saw him just an hour ago. The father has also, Noah Kinney, has also been telling me that since the incident, after the incident happened, some people who live in the community have been coming to his home to threaten him. They say that he's an accomplice, but he is saying that he believes that there could be some other persons behind the act. He says that he's not an accomplice, that this is not something that he'll countenance. We asked him whether he thinks that his son could commit such an act. He says that he cannot confirm or deny that his son actually did it, but he will leave it to the police to investigate. Now, the 16-year-old suspect also, we learned today, was actually in class 6. All right. And some of the community folks had quite some pleasant things to say about him, contrary to what they had to say about the 18-year-old suspect, Israel.
All right. Thank you very much, Maxwell Agbogba, with that update. And we'll be bringing you that interview with the father of the 18-year-old. Meanwhile, Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Asane is assuring family members of the 10-year-old boy who was allegedly killed by 2 teenagers that the culprit will be punished. The assurance follows threats by relatives and friends of the deceased that they will exact vengeance on the suspect and their families should they escape justice. During a visit to commiserate with the grieving family, she also urged parents to prioritize the welfare of their children and ensure they are living morally upright lives.
Quite unfortunate to have a situation like this where our own young children, 16, 17, can take somebody's life. In fact, it's so mind-boggling. Can't just understand the motive behind what they did, even the courage they got to do what they did. Very unfortunate, and we pray that we will not experience this again in the land of this country. We are praying that this one will go very far from us. On behalf of the president, we came this afternoon to see the family, to wish them well, to send the president condolences messages to them, and to also assure them that they are going to get justice for what has happened. We cannot sit aloof for people to continue taking lives like that. And we know if you're able to give them justice, that is going to deter others from doing same. We have also assured them of government commitment to support them in any way that is possible. For Kasua, we all know there are so many things happening, but we are also appealing to the general public to be security conscious. Should know that we are in trying times and we need to be careful. We need to be careful of what we are doing and then stay alert, especially mothers taking good care of their younger ones. We need to know where our children are going, where they are playing. And when we even send them, we need to follow suit to know that our children are safe.
Family members of the deceased have been appealing to police to release the body for burial. Spokesperson for the family, Samed Akalilu, says that's the only way they can get some closure in the short term. A planned burial on Tuesday could not happen, as police say they are yet to conclude investigations.
This is uncharacteristic of a Muslim dead body. I mean, we all know that for us as Muslims, the moment you are dead, the next available opportunity, you are buried. And so for what has happened, that is the greater part of our trauma so far. Yes, we've lost Ishmael. We are not going to get Ishmael again forever. But our major worry now is that we are not getting the body as early as we want. In fact, we went to the court yesterday. Our expectation was that we'll get Ishmael and bury him so that we can put a closure to that aspect of the issue and focus on the legal aspect and issues of justice and all of that. Lo and behold, that never happened. So we are appealing to the Ghana Police Service, from the president, who is the commander-in-chief, to the lowest person, to come to our aid. The police must expedite action and ensure that tomorrow that we are promised, we'll get our body and bury Ishmael so that the rest can be continued. That is our major cry now.
Okay. And what reason were you given yesterday? Because yesterday I know family members had gathered here in anticipation of the arrival of the body for burial.
Well, we're giving reasons that the autopsy and investigative processes had not been completed as of the time we were in court to get the body, and that we were very shocked anyway, without prejudice to how the case will go. This is a case where at least two parents of the young people who did the killing have attested that they are on record, public record. In fact, a while ago, one of the parents even called my sister, and of course my sister handed over the phone to me. He is grieving and said that he's more than willing to cooperate to ensure that justice is done. So for us, we are shocked that with the litany and a plethora of evidence, of course, without prejudice, they are doing their professionals, we know that, but we just feel that there is enough prima facie case that Ishmael's body shouldn't still be kept as of now. It should be released to us. So they said they haven't concluded, and we are hoping that on the basis of things happening from yesterday and today, we should have our body tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, the regional minister assured the family the body will be released for burial Thursday.
The family want the body released to them. How soon can they have that?
I promised them that they're going to have it tomorrow so that they can have a befitting burial for him on Friday. Thank you very much.
All right, now it's been a statement from the Ministry of Gender and Children Affairs, and I'll share that with you presently. So it is with deep sadness that I learned of the death of a 10-year-old boy at Kasua who was allegedly brutally murdered for ritual purposes. My heartfelt condolences go to their family, especially the mother of the young boy whose life has been cut short in such a gruesome manner. As a mother myself, with a son just around that age, I can imagine her pain and the anguish she is experiencing. The thought of any parent losing a child is unbearable, especially under such dastardly circumstances. My heart really goes out to her. It is disturbing that this grotesque act was committed by a teenagers who are barely 16 and 17 years respectively, who ideally should have exemplified honorable aspirations for their lives instead of this undignified way to enrich themselves. I plead with the media to take a tough stance against spiritualists and occultists who openly advertise on their platforms and entice these young ones to engage in these acts. It is time to take the moral right and uphold the values of our nation and safeguard the future of our kids and our dear nation in that regard. The culprits, who unfortunately happen to be teenagers, are tried and convicted, will be willing and ready to absorb them into our juvenile correctional centers under the Department of Social Welfare. Once again, my sincerest condolences to the family. We will be with you every step of the way. And so that's a statement from the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection. In other news, the Food and Drugs Authority has reiterated its warning to the public not to consume or sell the fishes that washed ashore over the weekend. The FDA issued the fresh warning after it became clear the fish had already made its way into several markets and homes. There are concerns the fishes may be unwholesome, but some residents in the vicinity of the Osu Castle beach who openly admitted consuming the fish say nothing has happened to them. A report by Kweku Asante.
Okaile operates a drinking spot right at the seashore and explained how the fishes were carried into homes.
Baby, I'm to cramp, a bit crap on me who say, a bit crap to say around 12 going, 12 to 1 going, even me who a bit cry.
In my neighborhood, people took some into polythene bags and sent them away, including a woman who lives nearby. She says her grandchildren brought it from the sea. There are those who think it's just normal. Oh yes, that morning I was told the bigger fishes have been sold, and because of their size, they sold out quickly.
Others who live in shacks and around the beach, who spoke to me off camera, said they had consumed the fishes. To others, it was a miracle.
I was sitting here when I saw them carrying the fish. I was surprised because I had not seen some happen before.
Since you were born, have you seen such miracle at the seashore before? How old are you? Right, so here at the Osu Clote Beach, residents and bystanders have been telling us how they consume the fishes which were washed ashore over the weekend. They've been telling us that because no official information came in, they did not know that these fishes may have had some challenges, for which reason they should not have consumed them. This woman says she still has some of the fish.
Friday, so where be it? You will be at a shore. She made a bar. Wabila ko be here lo agboko ko no kambani 11 fenike mi wan ka ba lo agboko ngba mo le ka mo le nsho mi lo mi fa service me na ka me ba ko nsho na
On Friday, we were here whilst our children were at the seashore. They came back with a big fish, which was wagging its tail. So I said the fish is not dead. The children said they got it from the sea. It was first seen by the security men around. They took some, cooked it, and ate it over here. So when the child brought it, we realized it was a good fish. So we removed its scales and chopped it. The fish was healthy. That Sunday, we used it for palm nut soup. So frankly speaking, my family and I ate some of the fish, and nothing has happened to us. We had some small ones, and we fried it, and these are the bigger ones.
The Fisheries Ministry has advised those who have consumed these fishes to come forward, even as authorities try to unravel the circumstances leading to the death of these fishes.
The Fisheries Commission says preliminary investigations show several of the dolphins that washed ashore in Axim in the Western region last weekend were traumatized. Unfortunately, many of them were butchered on shore by locals upon seeing them. Acting Director of the Commission, Dr. Michael Arthur Dadzi, says further tests are being conducted on water samples and the need to gather more information. He spoke with my colleague Gifty Andwapia earlier on the Pulse.
What the head of the fish health unit, the fish health veterinarian indicator was that they said they had actually observed that the fish, the dolphins were traumatized. So they are going further, they were stressed, they were traumatized. So they are going further to carry out the various investigations that they had lined up to investigate, including taking the offals and also taking the gills and taking the flesh to carry out examination. It's not only the Fisheries Commission that is conducting that. Food and Drugs Authority is also doing that. The University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana are also conducting investigations by having taken samples of the fish and samples of the seawater and the seaweed. So for now, we are very, very hopeful that the fish veterinarians will be able to get us some preliminary report.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin, 771 people died from road crashes between January and March this year, surpassing the number of people who have died from COVID since the first case was recorded in Ghana.
We need to focus and redirect our attention to road traffic accidents. The other diseases are important, but we don't have to neglect road traffic accidents in favor of the ones I've mentioned, because it is killing people more than all the other diseases that we are talking about put together.
And then also in the bulletin, businesses in the Ashanti region capital, Kumasi, reeling from incessant power cuts, are demanding a power rationing timetable to enable them plan the operations.
The government should tell us if it's doomsday we are experiencing.
There should be a timetable set for us so that we all go by it.
We'll be back in a minute.
And welcome to business. The Securities and Exchange Commission has begun drafting a new guideline on third-party and related transactions that will prevent the misapplication and misappropriation of investment funds by fund management firms. The third-party and related transactions was the major cause of the collapse of fund management firms. Deputy Director of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paul Arabio, made this known at the TESA Capital webinar on the topic investing after the financial sector cleanup.
We gave a directive for fund managers to halt guaranteeing of returns. This was because it gives the impression that a fund manager has a balance sheet to support the risk that they take. So irrespective of what happens to the underlying portfolio, the fund manager will make you whole. So that was the first initiative we took. And then we also started investigations into troubled fund management companies. We called hearings. We engaged a consultant to look at their books and to take a deep dive. We also worked on reviewing and enhancing licensing requirements. So that has also been issued. It was issued in the last quarter of last year, and that has new capital requirements. We also did an amendment to the LI 1728, and these provisions were replaced by the licensing and conduct of business guidelines. And then we also did some amendments to sections of Act 929, namely Section 35, 37, and 209 of the Act 929. And these allow us to become a signatory to the International Organization of Securities Commissions, which is IOSCO. It's a global body that we are part of as well. We're also preparing a review of Act 929, drawing on the lessons that we have learned from this cleanup exercise, and to clarify some of the powers of the Commission following a revocation action.
Well, speaking at the scene from the senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Elikpilim Kobla cautioned Ghanaian investors to be mindful of the appetite for high abnormal returns, since their investments can go waste.
Now, what should investors do after the financial sector cleanup? Okay, so I've already alluded to one, don't chase returns. Okay, because if you are chasing returns, you are chasing risk. Because risk drives what? Returns. Okay, so don't chase abnormal returns. What returns will we classify as abnormal? For example, 10% a month, I think guaranteed is abnormal. 12% a month guaranteed, I think is abnormal. Okay, currently, if you buy treasury instruments, they are going between 12%, 13%. Okay, for debt instruments, that's understandable. Okay, that is not like 120% a year. Or if you are doing the equity market, I would say that the average return probably you could get is about 20% a year. So between 12, 20% are normal returns. These are returns that also compensate you for what? Inflation. Beyond that, I think you should be careful. Of course, the equity markets in some years can do 50%. Okay, that's the beauty of equity. Okay, but if somebody is guaranteeing you 50% a year, 100% a year, you should flee for your life. Okay, again, when you are going to invest, ask relevant questions. What are you going to invest my money in?
Well, meanwhile, Tessa Capital is assuring investors that it will exhibit compliance and prudence in its financial transactions. That's how we end business. But just before we leave, the Bank of Ghana is working to soon halt what can be described as unfair fees, charges, and other practices in the banking sector. Now, this has been captured in the draft document being circulated among the banking sector players before it's finally implemented. George Rafi has more.
It has always been the practice of the Bank of Ghana to seek inputs from players in the banking sector before it introduces any policy onto the market. Therefore, the regulator is going a similar way before this directive is finally issued for the players. The Bank of Ghana in the directive is trying to abolish credit insurance and premium charges by banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions, which requires borrowers to hold credit insurance against any eventualities such as death, permanent disability, and termination of employment. The Bank of Ghana noted that even though it welcomes an initiative to ensure credit, is against this practice where institutions use their preferred firms and overprice premium charges to customers, which eventually could increase the cost of borrowing. The regulator maintains that this practice, it has also directed that banks are not permitted to retain insurance premiums collected from customers with the intention of implementing an internal insurance policy. The regulator is also not comfortable charging depositors account maintenance fee on savings accounts, which the Bank of Ghana thinks could in the long term discourage the opening of new savings accounts. Other practices that the Bank of Ghana is seeking to stop are charging extra or penalties for withdrawals and transactions done in the banking hall, as these institutions seek to discourage or push customers onto their electronic platforms. The regulator is soon going to halt the practice where borrowers are forced to transfer assets into the name of the financial institutions that they want to secure credit. These are part of several initiatives that the Bank of Ghana is proposing to check some bad practices and charges in the banking sector. It is, however, not clear for now when these directives will fully take off.
That's how we end business. Sports is up next.
Many thanks for staying with us. Time to bring you sports. My name is Hans Mensah Andor, and we witnessed Brazilian football in the Ghana Premier League. A show run by Fabio Gama and later Michael Vinicius. Asante Kotoko beat Petroleum United by 4-0. And there you go. So Kotoko winning by 4-0. And Abdul Ganiyu with the first goal for the Porcupine Warriors. Fabio Gama with the second. Andy Kumi with the third goal, and Michael Vinicius on his debut with the second touch of the ball after coming on, grabbing the fourth goal for the Porcupine Warriors in that outstanding game between Kotoko and Petroleum United. Now, the Youth Employment Agency has signed another memorandum of understanding with the National Sports Authority to provide monthly stimulus packages to 1,000 athletes for the next 6 months, according to the Chief Executive Officer of the YEA, Mr. Justin Kodia. The athletes would receive a monthly allowance of 500 Ghana cedis as part of measures to support them as they train and prepare for their various assignments for their respective national teams. Speaking at the MOU signing, Mr. Kodia noted that his outfit was looking forward to Ghanaian athletes performing well in the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games.
We all know back in the days, early 1990s, 1992s, and 1992, Ghana used to perform marvelously in various Olympic Games. And I quite remember at a younger age, we wake up in the morning to watch Azuma Nelson in the early hours of the day, Ikote and the rest. But for some time now, we all know all those disciplines have gone down. And one key issue that we have identified is the fact that most of these young men who aspire to become the next Ikote and Azuma Nelson, they are struggling. How can a young person who we want to be trained to become the next Azuma Nelson, but is also struggling to find means to survive? So as an employment agency, we thought twice that we needed to come in, particularly in the era of COVID, where businesses have gone down, to support our brother institution, the National Sports Authority, as a form of a relief package to various athletes. So that is how come we signed the agreement about 6 months ago. 6 months has elapsed. So there are certainly two choices in front of us, but we need to choose one, whether we bring the marriage to an end or we continue with the marriage. I understand there is going to be an Olympic Games where our athletes will go and perform. So when the glory comes, we know why he was part of that success story. We are here to extend the contractual arrangement that we have with National Sports Authority for a further 6 months for our athletes, about 1,000 athletes who are under the various disciplines, to see how the next 6 months will go. And we are very optimistic that after 6 months, when we should come here, it will not be another 6 months. Maybe it can be a year or 2 years arrangement between us and National Sports Authority.
Now, the Honourable Minister for Youth and Sport, Mustafa Yusuf, who was present at the event, commended the YEA for their contribution towards sport and called on athletes to take advantage of the gesture to train well as the nation prepares to host the 2023 Africa Games in a couple of years.
I want to express our appreciation to the agency for what we have done for the sports fraternity of this country. It couldn't have come at the right time because, as you know, we are hosting the African Games Camp 2023, and our sports athletes have to be developed to be able to host and win medals. About 54 countries will be competing for this tournament, and about 25 sporting disciplines are going to be competed for. So it is only proper that we invest. This investment is put into the sports sector to see that we develop the sports, like you said. Unlike the days where we have the Abedi Peles, the Azuma Nelson, the Ikote, we are no more seeing that because the performance is diminishing. And it is only proper that under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we are finding ways of improving the sport developments of our country, and such collaboration between agencies is what will be able to yield the needed resource to get us to compete in both local and international tournaments.
Well, that's it for now. More sports a bit later in the bulletin. My name is Hans Mensando.
Stranded Form 3 students of the Nalarugu Senior High School say they have been denied food on campus. They are asking for help to travel back home. On Tuesday, the Ghana Education Service rescheduled the reopening for Senior High School Form 3 students to May 5. In a Facebook post, GS said this was after management considered a proposal from the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS. The service said this applies to all Form 3 students, single-track and double-track schools, and all other arrangements on the calendar remain unchanged. Last month, GS postponed the reopening for SHS freshers to March 18 through to March 21. Let's now listen to the students.
It is 7 o'clock p.m.
and I'm here at the Nalirugu Senior High School, where I have come to follow up on the impact of the unexpected and totally confusing decision by education authorities to postpone the reopening of senior high schools for Form 3 students across the country. The students, some of who had traveled this morning from distant locations, were left stranded after they were told to go back home and return on the 5th of next month. One girl from Konongo in the Ashanti region broke down in tears after she was informed of the new arrangement. Some of them quickly returned, but others had complained of having no money to fare themselves back home. But tonight, the situation of these stranded students appeared to have worsened as they claim they have been denied food and left angry by authorities in the school. Sharifa is one of them from Boko in the Upper East region.
We just heard the news unexpected and we didn't trust it. We wanted to hear it from the headmaster. So when we came, we took breakfast in the morning, but they said it's compulsory for us to go back home and come back on the 5th of next month. So lunch and supper we didn't take. We have to depend on our chop boxes, what we have. They said if we stay, we will not get anything from the dining hall.
This student from Bunkurgu said she had been on campus since Saturday, waiting for the start of teaching this week, only to be told to go back home.
I came here on Saturday. Where I'm coming from is very far. And for now, the news we heard is unexpected. I was not thinking that I'll come here and go back again. The money they gave me, it has finished. I use it for lorry fare. Now I don't have lorry fare to go back. I'm now there. And they said, if you're here, they'll punish us. Or if you're even there, by tomorrow we have to leave because we will not get food from the dining hall. They will not feed us. In the morning, we went for breakfast. The lunch, they said no, they won't serve us. Evening too, we didn't go for dining again. Now, they said it's compulsory for us to leave. So we are just going to manage and leave the campus.
Here is another student, Matilda from Tamale.
We have to pack and go home because they say if we stay on campus, we'll not be fed by the dining hall. Because we had made our mind that the date they have given to us, we have to come. And we came now, we made lorry fares and we came in. And now they are asking us to go back. Many of us here have no lorry fare again to go back. So then the news we heard is so bad because some of us, our places are far. We only took our breakfast, but lunch and supper was denied. And we have to go home because if we stay here, it means we will not get any food from the school dining hall. And we can also depend on our boxes because depending on your box alone may not be enough for you to complete the term.
A senior staff of the school who was with the students at the time of this interview declined to comment and only preferred to speak off record. Ilyasu Tanko reporting.
All the top stories at My Joy online, and fish stress caused fish mortality at Osu. That's the Fisheries Minister Hawa Kumsing. And then chilling details of how two teenagers murdered 10-year-old at Kaswa. We have that story. You can get to My Joy online to read more. And as Majority Leader, be circumspect with your utterances, Muntaka advises Chairman Samponsu. And there's neither bribery nor barter between minority and majority. That's Chairman Samponsu, the Majority Leader. And that'll be it for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. But there's more news on the Joy News channel. Do stay tuned in. One person has died in a road accident at Afonkwanta in Kumasi Wednesday. The driver of a Mercedes-Benz bus loaded with goods is said to have lost control due to brake failure. The vehicle overturned, killing the 45-year-old driver, Idrisu. His assistant, who sustained injuries, is receiving treatment at the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital. Here is an eyewitness account.
Yenuya bakun menini ne fra kra fita no anajo eba
I came with him this night from Accra. His vehicle's brake failed at Afonkwanta here. That is what resulted in the accident.
Benz bus container driver no di Idrisu.
The driver's name is Idrisu, 45 years of age. He died instantly, but his mate suffered injuries and has been rushed to the Pharmaceutical teaching hospital.
Na mate nso so nsabu na mate ndo de na ko Pharmaceutical emergency. Nti sia driver no de on de wa enya nyame ade nti de na ko moche.
For over 2 decades, he has been driving without any incident. It is the reason 39-year-old Kwame Ofori had high hopes on 7 February 2017 of returning from his daily routine to meet his family in peace. But on that day, his long-standing record of zero accident got broken at Insawam and resulted in the amputation of his leg. This is one of the many chilling stories in Journey's latest Hotline documentary, Crashed by Seth Kwame Boateng.
Kwame Ofori, another victim of road traffic accident, can relate. He has been driving since 1991 and has never been involved in any accident. On 7th February 2017, he was driving one of Ghana's famous intercity buses, VIP, from Sunyani to Accra, with 31 people on board. At Nsawam, a long truck veered into their lane and hit the bus.
Timurasa inazona hono ya mochiri omusi mochiri was anti omode grabos akasi ni begu ti si vosa na tweme timi ya se control car na ntimi na bridge na omo fast wura mochiri no na me right left side no say car na tenisi timi left side no na ball bridge ni.
The accident happened at 2:30 a.m. and they got no help until 6 a.m. So for about 4 hours, Kwame's left leg was trapped in the wreckage. The pain was more than he could bear. He watched helplessly as he bled while others around him screamed in pain.
Me catch soja ni no jam chance o kanje mzo munyana me na me hu se ase na ya ha because already na me te won me dem saka me se muja na me sa nyina yi muja.
Kwame was the only person who got injured in this accident. By the time they reached the hospital, his left leg was literally dead and had to be amputated from above the knee. 39-year-old Kwame received no compensation from his car owner or the insurance company.
Ah, me kwa be brezo. Because so we there na me person me boss what
Kiankafra. Ya share holding anka a manko fonso nsu nyansa. Na kwa na ekoso.
Onze ya mama isu no. Do. Afa no me biblim. Na lak tisa ablante tisa na okupa bibia betina. Problem se at home.
Well, tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV/AIDS are all life-threatening diseases killing thousands in our part of the world every year. Shockingly, in Ghana, if deaths from these 3 diseases are combined, they come nowhere close to deaths from road traffic accidents recorded in a year. Trauma and orthopedic doctors in the country are very worried about this. Dr. Dominic Konedu Yabua, head of trauma and orthopedics at the Pharmaceutical Teaching Hospital, says this is a clear indication the country has not placed the needed premium on this preventable cancer.
Road safety, one, is not given the attention it deserves, and 2, road traffic related deaths and disabilities are also not being given the appropriate attention. There have been a lot of argument that if you look at deaths due to malaria, deaths due to HIV, and deaths due to tuberculosis, if you combine all of them, they are still not up to deaths that are registered from road traffic trauma. So looking at it, it means that we need to focus and redirect our attention to road traffic accident. The other diseases are important, but we don't have to neglect road traffic accident in favor of the ones I've mentioned, because it is killing people more than all the other diseases that we are talking about put together. Within a period of a week at the Accident Emergency Center of the Pharmaceutical Teaching Hospital, we recorded an average of 25 fractures, 25 broken bones, involving people of various age groups are registered at this center. Now, these injuries come in various patterns. Sometimes the patient will come, or the person will sustain the injury, and the injury will cause what we call the death of parts of the body. So at the time the person reaches the hospital, probably his leg is not viable, his arm is not viable. So the best thing the doctors can do to salvage the life of such a person is to amputate or remove the dead part of the body.
Dr. Dominic Konadu revealed this in our latest hotline documentary, Crashed, which airs on Monday, April 12 at 8 p.m. Now, businesses in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, reeling from the erratic supply of electricity to the city, are demanding a load-shedding timetable to help them plan. The electricity situation in the city has been quite unstable for a while now, though officials have promised all is being done to ensure constant and reliable supply by December. The businesses, particularly the printing houses, however, say the unplanned nature of the outages does not help their operations and will prefer a timetable to enable them plan. Prince Apia has more in the following report.
This is how the Asafo printing press enclave used to be before the recent unstable power situation. This is how most of the printing presses have turned out to be. Unannounced power cuts are wrecking the operations. Kwesi Ajekum Hene is chief executive of Alpha and Omega Publications.
We know our machines use this card. And recently, I lost 5 of the cards as a result of power outages. And each card costs 5,000 euro. And because we don't have consumer protection, who do you report to? So it's a big problem for us all.
Asafo, a buzzing printing hub in Kumasi, is not the same anymore. Nanama is a cold store operator here at Asafo in Kumasi. Her business is reeling under the impact of the current unannounced power outages.
A customer bought meat worth 2,000 cedis. The light was off throughout the night. Now the meat is spoiled.
Her cold room is one that does not use generators to power. Today, freezing her stock is a big challenge. So this is one of the freezing compartments of the cold store here in Asafo. And as a result of the unstable power supply, the unannounced erratic power, this machine has damaged. And it would have to take the owner here more than 50,000 Ghana cedis to get a new one or fix it to get back into business. In recent days, she would have to seek the services of bigger cold room operators to stay in business.
3 cedis for long, no? Ebi so 7 cedis. And the last one, I could 2 cedis.
The cold store operators charge us any time we send our meat to be kept in their compartments.
The cold store operators and the fish market here are among the hardest hits. The situation has affected prices of frozen products on the market.
The fish becomes soft and it's difficult removing the scale.
Fish says a box about 3 point something. A be a 4.2, a be a 5 million kra. And it's a box about class.
The power outages have affected the prices of fishes now.
Na say ya ntwa de na me hia light de a freeze no na say ntimi a freeze na say say ya de bete no we imagine me kwaya na say me bae.
Meanwhile, both ECG and Gridco have been emphatic the power situation will persist until December this year. But business operators like Mr. Jakumhene and Nanama want the government to either provide a timetable or shed load only at nights for them to stay productive during the day.
The government should tell us if it's doomsday we are experiencing.
There should be a timetable set for us so that we all go by it. We will all disagree the situation whereby they are saying that they have nothing doing about that. That is unheard of.
If nothing changes with the current power cuts, electricity-dependent businesses could grind to a halt before the end of the year. Prince Apia reporting.
Minority Chief Whip Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak has described as unfortunate the majority leader's description of some NDC MPs as brainwashed and lacking knowledge in the workings of Parliament. He says Osechi Mensah-Bonsu's comments smack of lack of leadership, especially for someone who should be courting the minority in order to build the needed consensus to drive government's business. Speaking with Rasta Satire Donko, the Asawase MP said the difference in the interpretation of the standing orders of the House does not mean a group is brainwashed.
Parliament is not for professors. Parliament is not for one side fit view. Know that he's a very experienced MP. Chairman is one of the most experienced MPs we have. But I don't think like him. And you've seen us on the floor many, many times. Understanding orders, so reading it and the meaning we give it. You see he and I having a banter. I disagree with him, he disagrees with me, but we carry on. Me disagreeing with him doesn't give him the right to say that I have been brainwashed. That is my understanding, and I'm pursuing it. And I'm also using the same rules. So everybody gives it. So for him to say that people have been brainwashed, I think that was very unfortunate. It doesn't also help in the consensus building. Because you see, the kind of parliament that we have today, you have people on both sides, both the majority and the minority, who just think that, look, let's just have a lock-on at every point in time. I don't believe in that. I've been a majority whip before, where we have to get government business running, and I've been minority whip before, where our responsibility is to put a check on the government. You need to strike a neat balance. Because at the end of the day, we will have a country to run. Yes, I'm not the one in the front seat, but I'm interested in the bus getting to our destination safely. Once I'm sitting in the bus, if I think that I can disturb the driver and then we'll go and crash, all of us crashes. I'm sitting in the bus too. So striking a balance is very, very important. But language like that of majority leader doesn't help in carrying a lot more members along, because people feel insulted. And when they feel insulted, it also, I mean, they will take an intent position, and that doesn't organize.
Alhaji Muntaka also reacted to Osechi Mensah-Bonsu's assertion that the Speaker of Parliament is turning the August House into an enclave for NDC members.
I mean, that's very unfortunate coming from the majority leader. Let's go back to the 7th Parliament. Who were on the board of the Parliamentary Service Board? There are supposed to be 5. Mr. Speaker and 4 others. By the practice of our House, we have always put the majority leader and the minority leader as members. And then they will look and get 2 others. And the practice of the House have always tried to get external people, preferably former members of Parliament, to come and be on the board. And let me just take the immediate board. Professor Makekwe was the Speaker. You have Haruna Iddrisu as minority leader, Honorable Chairman as majority leader. You have Abena Honorable Abuna, the MP for Echiwa, as in, is it East or West, the Deputy Minister of Finance, was there. And then you have Hackman. Hackman Usajimai, the former Member of Parliament for, I think, is it New Jabin or something? Yes, the former MP. But as at the time he was coming to the board, he was the chair of Council of Elders of MPP. How do you juxtapose this to a board now that is made of Honorable Babin as the Speaker, the same Che and Haruna as majority and minority leader respectively, right? With Abraham Osei Edu, a former majority leader and former member of Parliament for, is it Tema West or East? I'm sure a member of the legal team for MPP. I'm not very sure, but I think he is a member of the legal team for MPP. And then you have General, what do you call it, Johnson Asedun Ketia, a former member of Parliament, and the General Secretary of NDC. It has to tell me, if without admitting that, oh, General Mosquito is a party person, what of Hackman as the chair of the Council of Elders? What was he? He's not a party person. You see, that's my worry with Honorable Chairman. And I've always told him, you see, when you are the leader of the House, there are certain things it's better not said by you. Because you see, what you say and what you do make people force people to make their mind. And then when you now need them to be able to go along, it becomes difficult. Because you are pushing them to also take an entrenched view. You may have your view. In my view, I wouldn't say that in the public. I may have it as a view sitting in Parliament. But because I'm in the majority, who wants his business and government business to run in the House, I will not be the one to be saying this.
He also observed the standing orders of Parliament make it difficult for any speaker to advance political interests.
How can the speaker serve a political interest? Because you see, for those who don't know our rules, please try and make yourself conversant with our standing orders. The only time that the speaker can do something on his own is when their standing orders have not made provision for. Our standing orders in Order 6, that's the only time it gives the speaker discretion. Unless maybe if you also go in Order 93(1), where it says that when something is before a court, in the view of the person presiding, even that one, the standing orders have made limitation that when a matter is in the court, he, the one presiding, can then decide that, oh, the way this is, if I allow comment, it can prejudice the outcome.
In another development, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagwing says his election as Speaker of Ghana's 8th Parliament is God's plan. Speaking at the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, he stated God wants all sides of the political divide to work together to develop the nation. Joy News' Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagwing had a rousing welcome in his home region of the Upper West region, where he was mobbed by the people, notable among them supporters of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Immediately he touched down from the Ghana Air Force plane at the Wa Airport, which is now closed to commercial flights. He rolled out and headed straight to the One House Palace, where he met the overlord of the Wara traditional area, Navusini Sidi Pilipo IV, the Yerana, Alaji Sunguma Mumuni, and representatives of the 12 Bukogram sects in Wa. His speech in Dagari was punctuated with sounds of number 3 from NDC supporters in reference to the tango he had in Parliament with his close friend and majority leader, Oseche Mensobonsu, over a week ago. He told the people that the number 3, which he brags about, is not for he alone, but for the people of the region where he drives his strength from.
Kayondaba Puro Akrama, Kayondaba Sunama, If you were not praying for me, if you were not thinking about me, and if God had not accepted your prayers, I will not have been the speaker.
I swallow Waraka Sore Zabong Katu Mora Latinae Atanuri Yen
and call myself number 3. We should work to have a united front. Party politics has come to develop us and not to destroy us. The leader of the NPP today is President Akufo-Addo, and he is number 1. But by his grace, he cannot do anything without consulting number 3, which is me.
Number 3.
He later met the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, at his office at the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council.
It was a belief that my lecturer, Professor Michael Kwe, the Right Honorable Speaker, would have automatically won because his presidential candidate had won the elections. But God has a different plan for Ghana, a plan for us to coalesce, to work together, to be able to agree, to disagree in peace and in harmony, and to be able to develop Ghana as our God-given gift. And so I couldn't have gone that far without the support, the prayers, and the goodwill of my people at home.
Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, on his part, commended the Speaker of Parliament for the feat he achieved in politics and called on the people to unite and rally behind him for the development of the region.
We need to unite. The days when we used to have Wala, Dagaba, Sisala, it's long gone. We are one people and we must have an agenda. And that agenda is for the development of our region. That is why since I took over, have a policy not to discriminate against anybody, be it political, religious, or ethnic. We are one.
Reporting for Dway News, Rafiq Salam.
Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Admiral Seth Amwama, has disclosed that the government is on the verge of establishing forward operating bases in the northern frontiers of the country. The move will allow the military to have more personnel stationed in those operational areas to deal with any security threat there. Vice Admiral Seth Amwama made the disclosure when he called on the Upper West Regional Minister as part of his 2-day official tour of the region. Joining us, Upper West Region correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from work.
The visit of Vice Admiral Seth Amwama to the Upper West region is his first to the region since he was appointed in an acting capacity on February 5 and subsequently confirmed a month later as the Chief of Defense Staff. The visit to the region is part of a nationwide tour to all military garrisons to interact with the troops and, more importantly, to meet with political and traditional leadership in the region to thank them for the support they have enjoyed from them over the years and urge them to do the same in the coming years. Vice Admiral Amwama noted that the northern belt of the country is critical in the security architecture owing to threats of attacks of terrorists in neighboring countries. He said, though the country has not suffered any attack from terrorists, that does not mean the country is immune to these attacks from the terrorists, hence the need to get the country prepared for any such attack. Thus, explaining the reason why government is on the verge of establishing 15 forward operating bases in the northern Gulf of the country.
Government is in the process of signing a contract for the establishment of 15 forward operating bases in the whole of our northern frontier, and I'm sure a chunk of the bases would be located in the Upper West region. There are a few contractual issues, but those ones have been resolved. And so in the next few months, the contractor will be mobilizing to site, and then we are assured of the fact that within a matter of 1 year, 1.5 years, all the forward operating bases will be fully established, and we will have military presence very well established in this.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali on his part urged the new Chief of Defence Staff to walk on the path of his predecessor, Lieutenant General Obed Akwa, who he said has performed creditably well. Dr. Hafiz bin Sali reminded the Chief of Defence Staff of the plan by the government to have a permanent military barracks for the region, whose land has already been sought for at Busa.
Efforts were made some time ago to acquire land for the construction of a permanent military barracks at Busa. Every now and then, the chiefs have been coming to me indicating that while they are ready to release the land to the military, you are not forthcoming. There are certain processes that will have to be made before you acquire the land, but they are ready and willing to give it out to the military, and it is their expectation that you will come forward so that the deal will be sealed.
Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Justina Osubanahene says she will collaborate with the media to enhance the standard of living of the people and the general development of the region. She said she won't discriminate or stigmatize anyone. At a maiden interaction with the media in Sunyani, Justina Osubanahene also said her doors are open to all stakeholders who have the growth of the region at heart. Precious Semevo has more.
The Bono Regional Minister, Justina Osubanahene, until her nomination and subsequent approval, was the Sunyani Municipal Chief Executive. As the second female minister of the region, she enjoys unwavering support from the chiefs and people in the region. Many people believe she will spearhead unprecedented cohesion and development during her term of office. In her maiden interaction with some media practitioners in Sunyani, Osubanahene assured of collaborating with the media to enhance development for the good of the people. She said her doors are always open to all stakeholders and urged the journalists to be circumspect and seek clarifications in their reportages while using their various platforms to advocate for residents to endeavor to care for all state projects.
I know without you, we cannot deliver. We need everyone on board. And so, as a mother of the region, I want to reiterate that I will not do any discrimination or stigmatization so far as our work and for the good of the people are concerned. I'm ever ready and will be ready to work with the media so that we're able to enhance our way of life, develop and progress for the Bono region and even beyond. My doors are always opened, and who I am that you know so much. I will not change. I'll rather add more to the value. With you on board, together we'll raise the image of Bono region. Everyone is needed. All opinion leaders are needed. And so I know you also support me so that together we'll be able to do our best for the region.
Some journalists who spoke to Joy News expressing their readiness to partner the minister for the benefit of the people without compromising their values also acknowledged some challenges that confront them.
One major point that the minister raised, which for me was very striking, was that he was going to run an open door policy. We all need to collaborate with our new regional minister to be able to push the development of the region forward. At the end of the day, we want to see Bono region develop.
We have supported social governments to build this nation. But one important thing we have to also admit or acknowledge is that we need also their support as well. though we will support her to achieve whatever her decision for the region, but we also expect them that they will also support the media in the area of maybe transports and other things to go to the hinterland to also help them as well.
For Joy News, Precious Samevo, Sunyani.
We take a break now to bring you more business. And you're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, together with the National Petroleum Authority, has launched the National Retail Outlet Fuel Monitoring System as part of an aggressive reform to plug all revenue leakages in the downstream petroleum sector. Here's more. Launching the system, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia stated that the initiative will not just improve the petroleum products distribution system, but also go a long way to help government in its effort to maximize the mobilization of revenue from petroleum products.
This innovation by the NPA will not just improve the petroleum product distribution system, but it will also go a long way towards the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. It certainly would help the government in its effort to maximize revenue mobilization from petroleum products. Taxes and levies on petroleum products are major sources of revenue for government in pursuing its development agenda. Actions, decisions, and policies of individuals and corporate bodies which result in petroleum product distribution leakages and associated revenue losses to the state have serious negative effects on the development agenda of government.
The Chief Director of Safety, Esther Anku, stated that the fuel monitoring system is a demonstration of NPA's commitment towards improving the efficiency of the petroleum products distribution system. Speaking at the launch, Esther Anku revealed that the system also constitutes a major plank in the broad structures deployed to control illicit activities in the petroleum downstream industry.
Some petroleum service providers have, unfortunately, resorted to illicit activities in order to stay competitive in price. These petroleum service providers who have looked beyond reducing their margins to compete on price are rather creating avenues to exploit the petroleum tax system by dealing in petroleum products acquired outside of the authorized value chain and therefore evading paying petroleum taxes.
The National Retail Outlet Fuel Monitoring System is aimed at complementing measures already taken in the fight against illicit activities, and it is expected to monitor the receipt into the retail outlets of smuggled products, products meant for export, and diverted subsidized products such as premix and MGO local. The deployment of the system includes the calibration of underground storage tanks using the world's most advanced calibration technology, which is a Calibex 3D laser calibration technique that delivers high accuracy calibration within 30 minutes. Energy expert Dr. Yusuf Suleiman is calling for a privatization of the Ghana Grid Company, also known as Gridco. Now, this follows recent energy sector challenges, which includes the intermittent power supply. According to Dr. Suleiman, Gridco is facing some financial challenges, hence the need for private entities to take over its affairs.
What's happening is that I think the investment within the distribution and the transmission side has not been that massive as compared to the generation side, to the extent that we are having excess power. I mean, we are having closer to 5,000 in terms of our potential, when our peak demand barely reaches 3,000 megawatts.
All right.
And so if you look at that, just opposing that with the other sectors, I think it is just critical that we have investment into the distribution massive investment into the distribution, massive investment into the transmission. And that means that if you are road tooling, and I mean, if you say you are road tooling, it means that it's finance that you need to road tool. So yes, inherently, I think we'll need some kind of capital injection into that system, because over the years, I think it's been neglected to the. I mean, it's sidelined. We've so much focus on the generation and sidelined the distribution. the transmission.
Others describe this as a wild imagination, but one could ask the question, do you think it is high time that Ghana explores some privatization of GRICO?
Yes, I think. When I started my submission, I mentioned that if one portion of it is regulated and the other portions are not, it's bound to be these problems. And now the whole issue about our power generation, ranging from generation to distribution to transmission, it's about inefficiencies. Okay, so even if you have the quantum of finance that is required to rejuvenate the system or to revitalize the system, you inject this capital and you are not able to plug the leakages as in inefficiencies. You will come back to naught. I mean, you will come back to zero. So I think, yes, going forward, we need to involve private sector.
Now, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is pressing on governments the need to build physical infrastructure that will be able to help the country export its excess power to other African countries under the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Now, according to the association, the excess power from some power purchase agreements which are not being used but costing the state can be exported in order to reduce the cost of government and industries as well. Humphrey Ayemdake is the Vice President of the AGI.
Is that government has been specific that there will be a blend of private sector investment and that of government intervention. I can just hazard a guess that government will want to get donor partners, get people like the Afri-Exim, AFDB to complement that agenda. Because it's an agenda for transformation, to deepening the transformation agenda. I was stating elsewhere that if you look at the bauxite integrated project, it's a typical value chain and agenda transformation or structural transformation agenda, but it needs a lot of capital. You could do that for the Iron and Steel Authority. You could same for even the agrarian businesses. You can go on and on. A number of policy interventions that have been rolled out that needs a lot of capital to turn it around. As that form parts of the structural transformation agenda, our critical cry has to do with power and the cost of power. Because in all these elements of structural transformation, if your cost of power is not competitive, you end up not having the capacity to export into the sub-region. So how can we navigate this cost of power? And that's why I triggered in that as much as government is doing the best regarding that, you realize that a lot of the PPAs that were signed, today we have a lot of excess capacity charge sitting down there, which we are paying for, but we do not have enough infrastructural capacity to even export it to some of the neighboring countries. That form part of a service industry for export into the AFTA region. So we need a lot of money to deploy in terms of infrastructure that can send this product out. As long as we do not do that, currently sits on our books, and then it forms part of our cost of the mix for power, and then we're paying for it. That's against our desire to export my products to the West African market. And most of them in the Anglophone space have reasonable competitive figures in terms of how much they are paying per kilowatt hour. And therefore, that factor makes it a bit challenging. It's a critical factor that we need to figure out how to navigate to complement our structural transformation agenda in terms of power.
Now, Ernest Chemist Limited says it is focused to increase local manufactured medicines to boost the indigenous pharmaceutical industry. The chief executive, Ernest Bediako Sampon, says this includes the production of high-quality health products to deepen the growth of the industry. He spoke at the launch of a new herbal cough product called Honey Cough Herbal Cough Syrup. Here's more.
There's an increased demand for herbal products because of the efficacy of these products. You know, it's not only of the monetary reward, but we believe that it's the demand for the product and also the efficacy of such products. That is why we are venturing into that area. And hopefully, I think it will be to the benefit of the patient, the customer, and Ernest Chemist.
The Food and Drugs Authority indicated that this is a major stride by the pharmaceutical company in the development of a world-class medicinal product in Ghana. Deputy Chief Executive of FDA, Yvonne Nkrumah, cautioned consumers to always look out for FDA's registration number on all locally manufactured herbal products before purchase.
When the FDA received the application for the registration of honey cough as a herbal cough remedy containing honey and 9 herbal extracts, The samples and documentation were subjected to rigorous tests and examination at the Food and Drugs Authority's laboratory. The honey-based, sugar-free, non-drowsy herbal syrup passed all the necessary regulatory requirements for marketing authorization in November 2020 for cough and throat irritation. While congratulating NS Chemists Limited for this venture into herbal-based medication, we also consider the achievement as a major stride in the development of world-class herbal-based medicinal products in Ghana.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the Center for Plant Medicine Research, Dr. Kofi Bobi-Berima, indicated that the future of the business of herbal medicine is bright.
Herbal medicine, our mission is to make sure that herbal medicine, and then our vision and mission, to make sure that herbal medicine is a natural choice for all. And since the COVID-19 pandemic, you've seen the role that herbal medicine has been playing.
And that's how we end business. My name is Charles Aite. Coming up next is Sports This Day.
Time to bring you the second installment of sports. My name is Hans Mensah, and on our Mediama Sporting Club, they've reported Accra Hearts coach Samuel Boadu and his assistant Hamza Obin to the Ghana Football Association for the unilateral termination of their contract on Wednesday. The club said the decisions by the coaches is, quote, premature, hasty and arbitrary, unacceptable, and above all, abuse of office as an employee, and of course, irreparable harm, and has had a negative impact on the overall performance of the team.
The two-time FA Cup holders are seeking for substantial damages for what they described as arbitrary decision of the two coaches to abrogate their contracts with the club. Boadu, a former coach of Asoka Deportivo, resigned from the Mauve and Yellows in February and signed a permanent contract with House of Oak a week later. Mediama, who have filed a case before the GFA Player Status Committee, is reported to have backed their case with legal justification for financial claims, citing multiple adjudication cases from FIFA and the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The Takwa-based club say the decision by the coaches Samuel Boadu and Hamza Obin are premature, hasty, arbitrary, unacceptable, and above all, abuse of office as an employee, and did not find it expedient and prudent to warn or complain to the club before taking the decisions. The club say the arbitral decisions have caused irreparable damage and has had a negative impact on the overall performance of the team. Mediama also insists that damage done physically and psychologically to the club due to the sudden and planned departure of the two coaches cannot be explained and are now seeking for residual value in damages. Boadu's assistant Hamza Obin also quit his role at the club on March 16 but joined his boss at House of Oak a week later. Boadu spent 3 years at Mediama before he was joined by his assistant Hamza Obin, who spent 2 years at the club. Joy Sports sources say Samuel Boadu's decision to resign from Mediama FC was as a result of anticipation that he was going to be fired by the club. Sources within the management and technical team had indicated to Joy Sports that there was a planned decision to replace Samuel Boadu after Mediama's poor start to the new Premier League season.
Let's get into the UEFA Champions League, and it appears it's the teams that are playing away from home that are racking up the result ahead of the second leg. And Bayern Munich at home, they currently down by 3-2 against Paris Saint-Germain. FC Porto also down by 2-0 against Chelsea. Looking good for Thomas Tuchel and his charges. Bayern, of course, have got Robert Lewandowski out for this game. It appears the goals are not flowing as they should. And at the other end of the pitch, the defense, of course, is not, really delivering on their job. Born that a bit later on Fan Zone. Now, Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne has signed a new contract with the Premier League leaders that runs until 2025. The Belgian international had more than 2 years remaining on his previous deal. De Bruyne has won 2 Premier League titles, the FA Cup and the League Cup, 4 times since joining City from Wolfsburg in the summer of 2015. He's happy to extend his stay at the Etihad. That's it for sports. There is more at myjoyonline.com/sports. My name is Hans Mensah.
Right, then that'll be it for the bulletin for this evening. I'm Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.